over 80 times since I've been mayor. So what we do is we're all driven off of written questions. So I have a table in the back with Mayor's Night helpers, and they have blank questionnaires. If you fill out a question, we will cover that topic during the evening's proceeding. Once we run out of questions, we basically cut it off. I want to remind all of you that this is being aired live on GoHammond.tv, GoHammond.tv on the internet. One of the reasons we did not do it on the patio today is because if we would have done it on the patio, not only would it be a 100-degree heat index, but we would not be able to do our show live. So we made the decision, knowing what the weather is going to be like, that it was more important to do it live on GoHammond TV because we're trying to build up our live audience as well as the studio audience. So please bear with us. I think most people are happy we're doing it in an air-conditioned classroom instead of doing it outside as well. So thank you, Kelly. One person cares. I want to remind you also, next month we're doing Mayor's Night Out. It's another outdoor date. We're doing it in the 1st District, August 22nd, 2012. We're doing it at the 1st District Pavilion at Wolf Lake. So we're doing it outdoor there. We have confirmed that we will be able to do it live that night, right? Because we have a mobile hotspot out there, which was the problem if we did it on the patio. So anyway, I'd like to introduce Michelle Turchani. Michelle, raise your hand. Michelle is our Oprah Winfrey tonight. She'll be going around with the microphone. And she's going to read off the questions. We covered the question. If you have follow-up questions on topic, like if we're talking about economic development or downtown Hammond, if you have a question about that topic that relates to the issue we're talking about, please raise your hand. Michelle will come up to you, hold the microphone up to you. She doesn't like to relinquish the microphone because we are live on Go Hammond right now. So just ask your question and we'll follow it up, okay? First off, let's go ahead and introduce all the actors today.
Ed Crusoe, Hammond Water.
Gary Gleason, Street Department.
Jeff Smith, Fire Department.
Pat Moore, Park Department.
Sharon Daniels, Personnel.
Carmen Paniagua, Hammond Housing. Courtney Sazwa, College Bound.
Beth Jacobson, Economic Development.
Alexius Barber, United Neighborhoods, Inc.
Kathy Kazmerzak, Recycling.
Mylon Krasinski, Port Authority.
Tom Dabberton, Mayor's Chief of Staff.
Kurt Cook, Building. Stan Desotny, City Engineer.
Ron Novak, Environmental.
Kelly Kearney, Code Enforcement.
Jim Callahan, Inspections.
Johnny Perez, Sanitation.
Chris Campbell, Information Technology.
Michelle Turchani, Hammond Parks. Bear with me, I feel as if I have a tail with my cord here, so.
Took me a second to get that one, sorry. Thought it was some type of disease or something. Thank you. First off, I want to thank Dr. Egan for allowing us to use the Hammond Academy of Science and Technology, and I want to welcome all of you here. As all of you know, this has been open one school year. It's been in existence 2 years now. I'm right on that, right? Yeah, okay. Sorry, I might have been one more year, but they're doing a great job. Dr. Egan's doing a great job. You know, we're getting close to graduating our first class here, but each year the school gets bigger and bigger, and I know the 2nd District is proud to have them. And speaking of the 2nd District, I'd like to introduce to you your councilman, Alfonso Salinas. Alf, why don't you come up here and say something?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First time I've been in the school today. It's very nice. Just went on the curb, hit the curb right now. No, I hit the curb. Wow. Anyway, wow, 90 degrees out there. So let's get this going real quick. Like I know you guys want to get real anxious. I just want to thank the mayor for having these Mayor's Night Out. It's very educational for the residents of Hammond. And I'd like to thank the staff for showing up too. I know you guys are always willing and able. Drop of a dime, but I'd just like to say, let's get this show going. Any easy questions for me? Hard ones I'll leave for the mayor. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Al. All right, I'd like to also introduce a few other people of honor in attendance today. First off, Councilman at Large, Dan Spitali. Thank you very much, Councilman. Councilwoman at Large, Janet Vanez. Thank you very much, Councilwoman. I'd like to also introduce the former 4th District City Councilwoman and also a board member here at the Hammond Academy of Science and Technology, Kim Poland. Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, this is driven by written questions, and I don't want to not necessarily prolong this, but we didn't have very many written questions at the very beginning. So I want to challenge you, if you do have issues you want to bring up, you need to start in the back of the room with a written question. So we do cover all questions. We used to hear when we started Mayor's Night, the first couple of years, we used to say that this was all, oh, they never cover the hard questions. Nobody says that anymore. It's not true now, it never was true. If you have an issue, it doesn't matter if it's a hard question or an easy question, we will cover it and we'll talk about it. And if I don't know the answer, the good thing about Mayor's Night is I have somebody right by me that does know the answer. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Michelle?
Okay, our first question is regarding College Bound. How is your effort to secure college scholarship funds guaranteed for the next 20 years?
I can't get into the details because I would jeopardize what we're trying to do. So I will tell you that College Bound is an excellent program. It's been in existence, I believe, 6 years now. It was a 10-year promise when it started, which was at the time unprecedented, promising college scholarships for 10 years like that. We met 6 years of the bargain. We're going to meet the final 4 for sure because it was a promise. It's an ordinance in the city of Hammond. We can't ignore a law that was passed. However, our challenge is, what are we going to do? Like, if you have a 14-year-old son or daughter right now, or a 13-year-old son or daughter, you know, what's going on, Mayor? You know, is my child going to be able to participate in this great program? That's what we're trying to challenge ourselves to come up with answers to. You know, the original College Bound was funded with the gaming revenue, and it's still funded with gaming revenue. However, gaming revenue 6 years ago and gaming revenue nowadays is a different animal altogether. The boat doesn't generate as much profit as it used to because of the condition of the economy, I imagine. Also, we have more competition. Currently, they just opened a new casino less than a year ago up by O'Hare Airport, and believe it or not, that did take a bite out of our casino revenue. And they're talking about opening a couple more very close to us. And if that happens, we'll take an even bigger hit in our casino revenue. So our challenge is to come up with a way to fund that scholarship that doesn't necessarily rely on casino gaming. And that's what we're working on. And that's where I have to end it, because I don't want to jeopardize what we're trying to do. But if we're successful, this College Bound scholarship will be able to fund almost any kid in the city of Hammond, as long as you have your parents own a home. And that's what we're aiming for. So, is there any questions about College Bound? While we're on it, we can go ahead and talk about the subject, College Bound. Yes, ma'am.
How many students are involved?
Great. This is where I pass off because I don't know the exact answer. I want to introduce Ms. Courtney Sazwa, who has been doing a great job with us for a few years now in the College Bound program. Courtney?
Right now, every year, because we cover you per year for 4 years, so we have an average of 550 students every year. So I want to say 30% graduate in 4 years, another 30% graduates in 4.5 years, and then the rest of them graduate in 5. Does that answer?
How many people are affected and are part of the program?
Right now, currently, there's 550 students receiving it. 550? Yes. And that's pretty even because every year, yes, we graduate out of class and then I bring in a new batch of college-bound rookies.
Courtney, doesn't it get, technically it gets bigger a little bit each year, because each year, if you look at the statistics, the first class of college-bound was the smallest, the second class was the second smallest. Isn't that true still? Yes. Each class, you get more participation because the knowledge of the program gets bigger each year. Believe it or not, there's still some people that say college-bound, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Where have you been hiding for the last 7 years, you know?
But yeah, we're on an average every year. There's at least 550 students receiving that. There's 11 sets of twins, I think 4 sets of triplets, and then, you know, some random siblings. But yeah, there's 550 families that benefit from the College Bound Scholarship right now today. Yes.
How many people have graduated College Bound at this point?
So far since 2006?
Right.
200?
200 so
yes.
far. Right.
Yes.
And we still are going to graduate.
Right.
Guaranteed 4 more classes at least, right?
Right.
Okay. So it gives you an idea. It's a big program. In fact, you'll see a lot of students working for the city right now. They're doing their...
Yeah. Leanne Munoz back there is actually a college-bound graduate.
Leanne,
she
could
works...
you raise your hand so we can embarrass you? Yeah.
Sorry.
She was a college-bound student. Now she works for the city of Hammond. She does a great job working for our recreation program in the park department. We met Leanne through an internship, right? And saw a great work ethic and a pleasant attitude about work. And quite frankly, she landed a job with the city of Hammond. It's great for us because we get to see your sons and daughters, when they have to do their 40 hours community service, we get to see them in action. And we pick out the best and the brightest, I'd like to think. And in Leanne's case, we certainly lucked out. So, yes, ma'am.
I know there is a community service portion of this program. Would you let us know what kinds of things
Sure.
the students do?
I encourage them, they could do almost anything. Some work in the police department, fire department, parks department, streets department. Do me a favor, raise your hand if you have college bounds working with you or your department. Okay, so we let them choose. And my department, we forgot to raise our hand. We have a lot of college bound students work in the mayor's office, and I think it's a great internship. We act like they're not there. You know, I act like they're not there because I think it gives them the best experience. And sometimes if they're there on a tough week, they see the whole thing. We don't modify our behavior when there's a college-bound student. I think that's good. They get to see how we work in the mayor's office, and sometimes it's crazy and sometimes it's smooth sailing. But I think, in fact, Tom, Sharon, anybody, Michelle, how many college-bound students have we picked up that actually worked in the mayor's office? Pretty high percentage, right? Megan?
Absolutely. Megan, Sarah, who went on a course and left the city, went to the Whiting Rubber Sale Chamber.
Right.
We've had 4 or 5.
Leanne, did you work in the mayor's office? No? Smart. You had your eye on the Parks Department from the beginning. No, it's a great, I love the college bound, the community service portion. I think the smart ones are the ones that go to the golf course personally. Go replace divots and, swing your golf club every once in a while. You go to the marina, you can work at animal control. We let the student choose what's the best fit for them. Some of them know they want to be a police officer, so they go work in the police department. That's just smart. Yes, ma'am.
I know that you have aggressively sought funding to continue that program for another 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that's a question of priorities, because I know that funds are very limited, and I know that a lot of decisions have to be made.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like you to explain to me why you did not as aggressively find secure funding for the RBA.
Well, that's a different topic. If you want to talk about that, we can talk about it, but that's a different topic. And I will tell you that anybody that's been following my actions on the RBA knows that for years I was one of the biggest cheerleaders, and probably February or March of this year, when the city of Hammond, through Representative Linda Lawson, floated a bill in the General Assembly that called for permanent funding for the RBA, where we offered Hammond casino gaming revenue, and there was a formula for all communities to participate. It didn't get the time of day. I, as your mayor, was out in front on this issue for years. And I'm silent now because this has been dead since February. It was a done deal in February. We knew when the downstate Republicans, let's be frank, didn't give us the time of day to offer up our own gaming revenue to help the RBA, that it was dead. I mean, at that point, and it's not even our fault. Is there relief from Crown Point that could occur? Yes, but it's not going to happen. I mean, they haven't done it for years. What makes anybody think they're going to start now? Is there relief from downstate that could have happened? Yes, there was, but when the General Assembly went out of session, they were closed for business. There's no answers locally.
But do I understand that it is the local funding portion that is missing?
No, they need $9.5 million to operate, and there's no funding. Could the RDA do it? Yes, but they've chosen not to. Could Crown Point fund it? Yes, they've chosen not to. Could Indianapolis have helped us? Yes, they chose not to. Do we have $9.5 million? No, not even close. I barely paying bills as it is, and most of my money goes to Chief Miller and his 210 Hammond police officers, and Jeff Smith and his 150 firemen. That's 120% of the 100% of the revenue we get. We're upside down after these two departments get paid. The rest of us are very important. That's gaming revenue. We've been paying. Do I want to exacerbate our gaming revenue problem by $3, $4, $5 million more? Don't even have that luxury. It's not even an option with us. Can we get help from Crown Point? Yes, but they're not going to. Can we get help from Indianapolis? Yes, but they're not going to. They don't care. I have no answers. It's more important for us to keep police and fire and everybody else employed at this point. And I'm going to allow the foray into the RBA because that is a hot topic. So,
I just wonder.
and you know what, ma'am? This is the last question because you've sort of monopolized the early part of Mayor's Night. So,
I just wondered what is the financial commitment for 10 years to the college program?
It's more important in my opinion.
No, what figure, amount?
It's excessive. It's a big number. But I'm not going to get into that. It's a policy decision that I made. And in my opinion, College Bound is more important to the city of Hammond. Absolutely. Not even close. Actually, there's way more people that participate in College Bound, in my opinion. And it's something that City of Hammond needs. It's something that's helping us rebuild our middle class, and that's super important for the future of our city. And quite frankly, I think the people support me on that. I had 81% of the vote in the last election. I think a lot of it was because they agreed with the policy decisions that we're making. I don't like what's going on with the RBA. I think it's horrible. I really do. I don't have the money to fix it myself. And I'm not given the tools from Crown Point, from Indianapolis to get it done. I don't know what to say. It's horrible. It's a failure of government.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
College Bound is also an economic development tool. The city of Hammond for years has been well below the national average and also the Lake County average on the number of students that are college educated, or the residents that are college educated. And that's a key factor when we're trying to attract economic development. The program has been very well received by a number of companies that have looked to locate in Hammond, including Potash, Munster Steel, companies like that. So it's very important that we continue that program. As you said before, the RBA issue is not one that Hammond owns. Hammond's a participant in.
Hammond was ahead of the curve. We were told, quite frankly, by the General Assembly and Governor Mitch Daniels, join the RBA, regionalize your busing. This is the future of busing. And quite frankly, they led us to believe that the RDA would always fund the RBA. You know how? Because they put language in the RDA's charter that says you can fund the RBA. It would have never passed. The RDA would have never passed without that language. I was in there when it happened. So we were led to believe if we give up Hammond Transit and give it to the RDA will always fund it, or the state will come up with a funding mechanism. We gave them $2 million and our buses, and they've done a good job. But the state wasn't telling us the truth, and the RDA is not going to fund it. Now, I own no buses. I have no contracts. I have no routes. I have no drivers. I have no money. And I mean, it's frustrating because I'm the one that has to look at you. All these people that really jabbed it in our back are in Crown Point and they're in Indianapolis. They don't have to look at you like I do. I'm sorry. But you have to understand, this is not the city of Hammond's problem. It's not our fault. It is our problem. It's not our fault. Thank you. Wow, tough start. RBA seems to be the topic. Anybody, and I'm sure there's more than one person in here that wants to talk about this because it is a hot topic right now. Michelle, is that true?
I don't have any other questions.
Does anybody want to follow this up? If you don't, we'll move on. Going once, going twice. Bobby, in the back. Bobby's my board member for the RBA. I hate to kill a dead horse. I was about to kill a dead horse, but I just saw Bobby back there, and I know he just got done with an RBA meeting. In fact, Bob, could you shed some light on the finances of the RBA and what's going on, and please, and then we'll move on.
Thanks, Mayor. We had our final board meeting tonight. There's a couple things that were determined at our board meeting that are going to affect the city of Hammond. First of all, the Dan Rabin Plaza, which is a linking point for the RBA buses, for GPTC, and also for the pay system. It's the place where you can make all those connections to go in all those different places. At the shutdown, RBA staff made the determination to move out of the Dan Rabin Plaza. So we took steps to try and keep them there, and the one step we took was to offer the Dan Rabin Plaza to the RBA staff for $1 a year, just to keep them there, just so GPTC could make those connections. They've chosen to locate at Maryville Town Hall. It was a vote that was taken today. I was vehemently opposed to it. Our mayor put me on that board for two reasons. It's first of all because we gave $1.8 million to the RBA, and secondly to make sure that money could best serve the citizens of the city of Hammond, so that we could, get around locally and get around through the region. And just to echo what he stated, it's a failure of government. The county's given us no options. The state's given us no options. The RBA will have sufficient funds to operate through June 30th, and there will be scarce resources thereafter to operate any busing, any paratransit services, or any demand response services.
So what are the answers? I think that what we should do as a city, and this is something the council and I are probably gonna start looking at, is maybe we talk to the township trustee and we help the township trustee financially, maybe to expand the dial-a-ride program and use it for the most extreme cases. You know, if you're disabled and you literally, or you're blind, or you literally can't drive yourself, we have to have answers for them. But as Bobby said, Crown Point's not helping, and neither is Indianapolis. We're all alone on this. So, you know, I've been prepared for this day for months now. I knew in the General Assembly when they didn't even let us move our bill, I knew that it was dead. That was the final straw for us. It was the final grasp. And everything since then has been, it's literally like a Hail Mary pass. At the end of a game, a Hail Mary pass, and you know what the odds of connecting on those are. So anyway, any other questions before we move on to another topic? Great. Oh, right behind you. That was 2 times we almost got rid of that topic. It's okay. I guess that's what Bobby just said. Is that true, Bob? I mean, I didn't go to the RBA meeting. Maybe you and Bobby could go out in the hall and talk about what happened at the meeting, but okay. Anyway, let's go on to the next topic.
Okay, next topic. Question is, the Indiana Unclaimed Assets Fund of roughly $130 million has about $6.4 million Hammond residents' money currently in it. What, if anything, is the city of Hammond doing to get that money to Hammond residents?
I want a landline on this one. Anybody? Yeah.
It's a state program, and they advertise it in the Times and the Post Tribune, but it's a state program. It's not something that the city of Hammond has any.
But I think what the question said is, what are you going to do to let these Hammond people know that there's assets out there? Chief, do you have some?
That was it, that they advertise as a state program. Also go online, and it's done by the Secretary of State. Either they, these people have relocated elsewhere, are deceased. These are from security boxes and banks.
Is that through the Attorney General's website?
Refunds.
Yeah.
Correct.
As soon as you put the microphone up to his mouth, he stops talking. It's like, he was doing fine before you walked on. You're like, la, 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 la.
And there are businesses that have deposits that have ceased to exist. I mean, that's a big figure, 6.4 million, but there are state agencies that are trying to find those people and advertising in the newspaper and online.
Okay, there you go. Everybody's got an answer. Anybody want to follow that one up? All right, let's move on.
Next question. How much debt is the city of Hammond currently in?
Dang. Bob?
The city of Hammond right now only has one outstanding bond, and it's a bond related to a police case from 1980. I believe we have about 3 more years to pay on that bond, and the balance on it's about $2.8 million. And that's the one piece of outstanding debt that the city of Hammond has.
That's from the Mays case, which, if you've been following in the newspaper, this case is still going on. There was an arrest of a defendant from a 1980 murder of a Hammond cop. Was it 1980, Chief? 1980 of a murder of a Hammond cop. He was just arrested this week, actually, and he was getting ready to file another multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the city of Hammond for wrongful imprisonment, and I don't think he's going to be filing that lawsuit now. He's more concerned with keeping out of jail at this point. But that case started when I was 10 years old. And little did I know when I was 10 years old that I was going to be dealing with this case literally every year I was mayor. Since I walked in 2004 to this day, we're still dealing with this case. It's obviously, I know the Hammond Police Department's happy. Chief, do you want to say something about this? Even more appropriate for you than for me.
Actually, it was a group effort, Mayor. We were approached 2 years ago by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, one of their special agents, And he kind of wanted to resurrect the case and use the Northwest Indiana Major Crimes Task Force to investigate it. And they did. For the last 2 years, they've been investigating it. And we actually found someone who's kind of an eyewitness or a witness right after the incident, and we found some new evidence. Even though it's 30 years old, we still are coming up with new stuff, and it's actually a pretty good case. There's actually 3 defendants, Larry Mays, James Hill, and Pierre Catlett, who's in Cook County already, but the other 2 were picked up last Thursday, and they're in jail. So, of course, we're very happy to, bring the killers of a police officer to justice.
And Larry Mays had a wrongful imprisonment case filed against the city of Hammond when I first became mayor, not related to this case. It was another case, and he ended up settling with us for millions because DNA evidence proved that he was not guilty of the rape. Doesn't mean he's not guilty of the murder of Hammond cop, but he wasn't guilty of the rape, and he was imprisoned on the rape charge, which was a problem for the city of Hammond. This all started in 1979. Chief, is that true, or 80? 1980. So, I mean, this is all stuff that happened under previous regimes, even before my father was mayor. So, anyway, Bobby, so the final answer to the debt question was $1 million and change? He's not going to be spending any of that money if he's in jail, so maybe we can get it back. All right. Thanks for the question. Any follow-up on that? Okay, move on. That's a pretty specific question.
Next question, who does the Director of Planning and Development answer to? They seem to be having a problem getting a hold of him.
Well, he's not here right now. So it's a bad time for him to answer that. He reports to me, yeah, but I do know that he is not feeling well today. So Phil Talon, he also, working for him, he has 3 people that report to him. He has our city planner, Brian Poland, who is in the second row right there. He has Beth Jacobson, the Director of Planning, or Director of Economic Development. Beth is right here. And he has Awana Miller. Where's Awana? Awana's not here either. Awana Miller, who is the Director of Community Development, reports to him as well. Community Development's more concerned with running the CDBG program and not-for-profits and running events. Economic Development, obviously, self-explanatory what they do. And then you have the planning, which is a very important department. When we get people to commit to us with economic development projects, they have to comply with our laws and regulations, and that's what Brian's job is to do. So that's an explanation of that. Maybe you could bring up, if the person wants to bring up specifically an issue they have, maybe we could discuss it right here. Okay. Anyway, I'm sure Phil is watching at home right now, cringing.
Okay, next question. What are the revitalization plans for Jacob Square?
Okay. Revitalization plans for Jacob Square. You want this one, Alexius? United Neighborhoods, Inc., Alexius Barber, who's doing a great job there. You want to go ahead and touch on that, Alexius?
Yes, currently with the state of our funding, right now that project has been put on hold. So right now our board are just attacking the things that we do have funding for. So right now that's been tabled.
What, I mean, maybe we can talk a little bit about what we've done over the past few years there. I mean, it's not like...
As far as Jacob Square?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, like I said, when I took over a year ago, that project was tabled, and we haven't been able to resurrect it because of funding.
Mm-hmm.
And also, one of the main reasons why we have not attacked that as well is because there's an NSP home that has been remodeled there, and that home is still on the market. So right now we're trying to look for other areas that we know are more marketable, have more potential before attacking that one.
Okay. Does anybody want to follow that up?
Yeah, I think over the last few years that we've taken down close to 15 homes over there. Close to 15 homes. We've had
Kurt,
numerous,
you want to jump in? Jim,
yeah,
Kurt,
numerous,
Kelly?
Code issues. So we've been very aggressive in that area.
Kelly Curdy from Hammond Code Enforcement.
Yeah, we've taken about 15 homes, a lot of them on Walter Street, victims of arson.
How much does it cost to take down 15 homes?
Depending on the size of the building lot, between 8,000 and 15,000.
So it's a couple $100,000.
Oh yeah. A lot of rental properties in there. We've been running through there and making sure properties are registered rentals. Some multi-family homes that are cut up single-family homes. We've been doing a lot of inspections through there. So.
Chief Miller, could you grab my microphone real quick? As a police chief, when I first took over as mayor, a lot of people talked about you know, under its previous name before we changed it to Jacob Square. They talked about it like being a hot spot for crime. And obviously it's sort of embarrassing with the police department like a block away. Can you talk about your experience with Jacob Square, if it's better, if it's worse? I mean, in your opinion? Some of the problems you see there as chief?
When I came on the department in 1990, that was the absolute worst 4 blocks, or I'm sorry, it's 8 blocks in our city. It actually got so bad at one point in about 1995 that we had a dedicated patrol for that 8 blocks. That's incredible to have a patrol for such a small area. That area used to account for the highest proportion of 911 calls in our city. And actually, what Mayor's talking about, they changed the name. When you used to drive down Thornton Street, they had a long fence that said, "Welcome to Little Waco," and it had the Waco Kings logo, so you knew what neighborhood you were walking into. And it was just nonstop shootings, robberies, things like that. So
the density's changed though, as far as the population in there, right? It's, I mean, obviously, if you get rid of 15 homes, that's going to change the density a little bit. Does that help you guys in your job?
Of course, yes, very much so.
Have you noticed a difference? I mean,
yeah,
honestly,
we don't have as many calls. The call volume has definitely went down in that area, and also the seriousness of the calls has decreased.
It seems like we've taken more than just 15. Are you saying just on that one street?
I think there's more than 15 too. I think
Because you drive through now, it's like a jigsaw puzzle with missing pieces.
Mayor, that's how many were torn down. That's not as many. We have more rentals that were closed and other houses that were boarded up.
Right. Okay. Does anybody want to follow up questions regarding Jacob Square? Ms. King is in the back. Michelle. We have no wireless mics, huh? We're a high-tech operation here.
Very high-tech, in a high-tech school. Nonetheless, the question, I think I heard someone say that they have tabled the plans, what plans were tabled, and I mean, what have you been discussing? What's on the table, specifically, you know, for the community in terms of keeping what has been accomplished moving forward?
Well, I could tell you, as far as finding problem houses and demolishing them, and that's huge action in itself. Alexis, do you have any response to that, or?
As going through the files, there was a plan for a modular home in Jacob Square, but because of, once again, because of lack of funding and grants available, that had to be tabled. So that's
I mean, it's like any household that has a revenue hit. I mean, if you have a revenue hit, you have to determine which things you're going to do and which you're not. And unfortunately, we don't have the funding at this point, so I apologize. But that's a symptom of the economy that we're in, a symptom of the fact that when I took over as mayor, we used to get $42 million in property tax revenue, and last year we had $29 million. That's a big hit. And, you know, of course, when you take a $13 million hit in property tax revenue, you have to adjust your budgets accordingly. And when your revenue of your casinos, which is used to fund United Neighborhoods, Inc., takes a 25% hit, as we have, you have to prioritize differently. And it's unfortunate. And obviously, we wish the casino was doing what it used to, and we wish you guys were paying, you know, property taxes as a percentage higher than we used to, you know, as high as we used to, and until we get back to the norm with collections and with our revenue, we're going to have to continue to prioritize. So I apologize. Sometimes that affects people, and I know Ms. King used to run United Neighborhoods, and I know she felt near and dear to this project, and you know, I'm sure the new director and I will work closer together and see what we can get done. So, okay.
Okay, according to the Post and Times, Mosaic Middle School, Inc. is coming to Hammond, another private school using state vouchers. How will this affect HAST?
What's this now?
Mosaic Middle School, Inc. is
Where?
coming to Hammond, another private school using state vouchers.
Anybody hear about that?
I think there was a proposal. I don't think that
Is that
they've
the one that
actually
was supposed
been.
to go downtown?
Yeah, I don't think they've been
I don't
granted a
think so
charter.
either. I don't think that's a true
Yeah.
statement.
I don't think it's been granted a
Anybody
charter.
want to follow that up? I don't think that's a true statement. We were approached with another charter school wanted to locate in Hammond. It was going to be middle through high, and they wanted to locate downtown. And I said, that sounds pretty familiar to the charter school we already set up in downtown Hammond. Why would we support something that would compete with something that we invested millions of dollars in? This school. Why would we compete with that voluntarily? So we chose not to follow up. And I don't know if this is the same thing, but
I think it is.
Sounds like
It's
it.
a Mosaic. I don't think that they were granted the charter as yet. Also, there were a couple of issues that they needed to work out, one of which was they wanted to open up a middle school and then have those students move over to HAST. But as many of you know, HAST is 6 through 12. And so if you don't enter HAST in the 6th or 7th grade, it's very hard to imagine that you're going to find space available at the 9th grade level. So I think that their application is currently on hold. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty confident of that.
If the person that wrote this question wants to follow it up, we're more than happy. Oh, Ms. King. I read both papers every day. I don't remember seeing that.
Was that recently, Carlotta, or was that some months back?
Really? I haven't heard anything about it. Okay. All right. Let's move on.
Okay, the fences at Griffin Supply on Columbia and a business on Homan and Hoffman across from American Steel need to be fixed. Solon's greenhouse on Columbia is in dire need of repair and the grass needs to be cut.
Okay, let's go through that. Well, first off, why don't you mark that with Kelly Kearney's name on it for code enforcement? They sound like all three of them are code violations. Isn't there something going on with Solon's currently?
Solon's on the demo list.
It is on the demo list. So Solon's coming down, the one, Solon's on Columbia, the ugly building.
I think it's set for the next hearing, correct, Chris? Yeah, I think it's next hearing.
Okay, well, that's good news. Because it is looking pretty shabby.
It looks bad.
Yeah, I agree. What other ones? Maybe we can, first off, Kelly, the Director of Code Enforcement is going to get a copy of that letter so that he can follow up each of them with his staff. But do we know about the status of any of the other ones?
What were the other ones?
What were the location?
The fences at Griffin Supply on Columbia and a business on Homan and Hoffman across from American Steel.
Holman and Hoffman. Is that the candy place? Amstead. It's across from Amstead, they said. Amstead, by the way, why don't we go ahead and talk about Amstead, because this is in the same neighborhood. Beth Jacobson, the head of economic development. Nice to see somebody showed up from that department today. Phil's back at home cringing again. Oh.
Amstead Rail is making a rather large investment in their 110-plus-year-old facility on Homan Avenue.
How much is it?
It's $7.7 million over this year and next year. They're investing in new machinery and equipment to meet a new increased demand, and they're also going to be fixing up the Homan Avenue side of the building. So kind of updated a little bit since it is such an old facility. They're going to be putting in new windows and just kind of cleaning up the property. They've already done some.
The facade will be updated.
It will.
That's why I knew Beth would hit on that. So in fact, we made that part and parcel to the agreement if you were going to get the tax abatement, which we don't give out very many.
No, we're incredibly picky when it comes to tax abatement.
When was the last time we gave a tax abatement?
It's been a few years.
Was it the one on Calumet?
Yes.
Still can't believe we gave that one out.
I think Bobby's back.
What's that? All right. That was Bobby's? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Maybe. But they did receive a tax abatement through City Council because of the large investment that they're making. They were actually being courted by Shreveport, Louisiana. The city there had offered them free land and a free building, and it actually would have been a strategic move for them geographically because their customer base is in the south and in Mexico, so we kind of had to fight to keep them here. They've got 140 employees. They've recently added about 70, and they're adding 21 more with the new equipment. So they are increasing jobs, increasing their productivity, and in addition to that, we are getting the tax. They don't get 100% abatement on everything. It's a sliding scale, so they are paying new taxes on the new equipment. They continue to pay all of their existing taxes. So it's a win-win-win situation for everybody.
So the good news is they are going to fix up the facade that you see off of Holman, which it's been there for 100 and something years. So
that's right, yeah. So
which is the birthplace of Hammond too.
What's that?
That's the birthplace of Hammond. That's where Mr. Holman moved. It was the
That's where George Hammond had his meat packing plant, right?
Well, he put a bridge there.
Well, he put a bridge there, but he had the meat packing plant.
He was way ahead of Mitch Daniels on the toll idea.
Mayor, I just want to mention, since Phil isn't here and Beth was off on maternity leave, The folks across the street, Detroit Trucking, have been talking with the city also about doing some improvements to their property as well. So it's not just going to be one side of the street, it's actually going to be both sides.
And we realize, you know, Hammond's 125 plus years old. How many? 127? 127-year-old city. We have some parts of the city that, you know, are literally pretty original. And this is a part of the city. It's one of the oldest parts of Hammond is right there. I was, you know, Mr. Hammond moved there. Of course, he felt comfortable moving right off of. Oh, excuse me. All right, I already screwed up my joke. But anyway, we understand that neighborhood has issues. That particular area has issues, and we're working with Amstead, and we will work on the complaints that you gave to us. Michelle will forward that to them, and you know, if we have somebody who wants to invest in that part of the city, we'll make it part and parcel of the agreement. So it's real close to downtown Hammond. It's got to look better than it does now. Councilman, you want to say something?
Yes, if I could follow up on what Mr. Daverton said. I talked to that gentleman at that trucking outfit. He said that I had got the complaint about a month ago, and I went and talked to the gentleman. He was a very nice guy, and he goes, what had happened is somebody ran a truck into his property and stole a bunch of tires, hitting a couple of vehicles. So I said, well, what are you going to do about the fence? He goes, well, he's waiting for the insurance company to settle with him, and then he's going to upgrade that whole section there that the complaint was made.
Yeah, I think that the plan that he's talking about is putting a berm and then putting a fence above it to add some green space to it.
Okay, well, great. Good questions. I appreciate you bringing them up, and I promise you we will follow them up with code enforcement. So thank you. If you have complaints like that, this is a good opportunity to turn them in. You know, we fill them out on the form and back. Michelle asks the question, and she forwards it right to Kelly Curdy, and he takes it to his staff, and they follow them up tomorrow. It's a good opportunity for you to take care of complaints in your neighborhood. So, no problem. Okay, let's go ahead and move on.
Any update on State Line Energy? What were they paying tax-wise to the city? Will assessed value their plummet anytime soon?
State Line is shutting down. Dominion Energy owns State Line. That's known. That it's because Dominion doesn't want to invest in the pollution control equipment. It's literally the new regulations, the Clean Air Act, have made it basically more expensive to fix it up than to shut it down. So they made the decision to shut down the coal station. It's an independent power plant, one of the dirtiest power plants in the United States of America. Absolutely. I think it's the third dirtiest in the USA. It's the dirtiest in Indiana without a doubt. So it's weird because on one hand, it's also the largest property taxpayer in the city of Hammond. Is that true, Bobby? So on one hand, you're like, man, the largest property taxpayer in Hammond is going out of business. And on the other hand, it's also the dirtiest plant in Indiana, one of the dirtiest in the country, which I imagine gets back to us at the end of the day. So it's mixed emotions, and obviously 100 and something people are losing their jobs, and you know, but we have some good news. I don't think it's concrete yet, but there's been some interest.
Yeah, there's a company out of Texas that actually is in the process of buying the property. Their plan is to demolish the current building. We don't want to have another Falstaff plant. Those of you who remember the old Falstaff plant, we want to avoid that. They're going to demolish the facility over the next 18 to 24 months. And long term, the property will most likely be used for what's called a peaker plant, which is a natural gas fired facility. When you look at that site, there are a number of different feeds to and from that site. It's part of the North American grid, and it's an ideal location for a peak energy facility, and that looks to be the most likely use.
Is that in cooperation with any local businesses? I'm walking on thin ice here.
Yeah, at this time, the demolition of that plant, actually, I don't think they've signed a final agreement with the demolition company, but there are only, Jim, there are only like a half dozen companies nationwide that could actually demolish a facility like that.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about long term.
Long term, I think there are some cooperatives they're looking at with local companies. Yes.
It's good news.
Yeah.
It's good news. It's literally first off, yeah. Who's that? Kurt? Oh, okay. Yeah. That's all right. I'm sorry. Yeah. I answered to it though. Okay. I lost my train of thought. So, all right. Anyway. Bobby, you have anything you want to add to that? I do. I remember what I was going to say. Bob, with the plant shutting down, imagine there's a couple years while they're demolishing the plant and cleaning up the environment, which is going to be a major issue because it's been a coal plant for close to 100 years, if not more. How do they get taxed? Because they still own the property. It's not like they pay zero taxes, right?
That's correct. I think part of that question was how much do they pay? And
yeah, is it a percentage? Yes. Do they get, what's the term?
Well, I was actually going to say, the mayor told you guys that we received $29 million in property tax revenue, and the Civil City from State Line Energy receives $1.8 million. They pay more taxes than that. They pay about $5 million in taxes, but the City of Hammond's portion is $1.8 million. The good thing is, even though they shut down, it's sort of like if you move out of your house and you leave it and your house is vacant, you're still going to pay your taxes. So the city's still going to receive taxes this year and next year in the same amount. So that's the good
And then they're
news.
going to go for obsolescence.
And then they're going to go up for obsolescence. And once they do that, they're going to make a case that the property's not worth what we currently say it's worth because there's no
And they'll probably be
manufacturing going
successful
on.
if they're
Probably
shut
will
down,
be.
right?
It probably will be, most likely.
So what would their tax bill drop to? I mean, would it drop 75%, 50%?
Yeah, most likely it's going to drop to basically the value of the vacant land.
So basically, we used to have 1.8 million in property tax revenue come to the Civil City from State Line. You're saying
we're going to get that this year. We're going to get that in 2013, and then most likely no further unless there's a new use for that property from a different user.
So if a big company comes along and buys it, puts a natural gas plant there,
we ought to be able to see similar revenues coming from the property tax stream.
and if we knew that, because it's scary right now, it's scary for us, it's scary for you, because we don't want a big hulking dinosaur as a welcome sign into Indiana there. None of us want that. We don't want to lose property tax revenue, so it's scary right now. But if we could fast forward a couple of years and know that there was a natural gas plant there in place of State Line Energy, I think most of us would be happy about what's going on right now. And I'm keeping my eye on the prize, and I'm optimistic that at the end of the day, hopefully we get to where we want to be. And I think we have a question over here. Absolutely, sir. In fact, Ron, why don't you jump in and talk about some of the challenges on that, if you don't mind, sir. And if you have another question, we'll follow up, okay? Ron's the head of Hammond Environment.
You'll see a major renovation out there in regards to the demolition because you first have to deal with the building, and that place is probably the single largest source of asbestos in the city. So those boilers, the piping, all were insulated. That needs to be removed. Then you remove any other contaminants that are in the pipes and ash and material that's out there. And then you look at soil and water issues to determine whether or not any of the contaminants have got into the soil.
Because their coal pile sat in the same place for over 100 years, right?
Right.
So you imagine it's got to be hundreds of feet down, coal contamination, right?
That is probably the easy part. The difficult part will most likely be if there's water contamination of the groundwater. Soil you can dig up and haul away. Groundwater has to be pumped. And we're talking about large quantities. So the building, the land, both will have to meet standards in regards to that being transferred. And I'm sure the owner is going to want to make sure they're not going to inherit any liability and do their due diligence.
And we also know the current owner, Dominion, wants to get away as cheaply as possible. And we, Hammond residents, want a clean transfer of clean property from one owner to the next so that we could bring our next taxpayer in and work together with that person. So
the gross cost of demolition, this doesn't include the salvage, is about $25 million.
$25 million. Wow. So gives you an idea of some of the challenges. This is a big project, a big deal, not just a Hammond deal either. This is a region deal because this is a region, everybody sees this when we go to Chicago or we come from Chicago. And that's the route I take to go to Chicago. It's a welcome mat into the state, it's a welcome mat into the city, and we don't want it to be a hulking dinosaur that's empty. So, did you have another question, sir?
So if they don't pick up the tab, who does?
That's a problem. Because I can tell you, well, usually what happens is it just sits there vacant for years and years, and everybody ignores it. Ron, talk about some of the challenges we have in the North Basin of George Lake. Was it Hammond Lake? Huh? Federated Mills,
Right,
thank you. Talk about that. They just walked away and left the Superfund site, right?
Right, and we had to look to bankruptcy dollars in regards to cleaning up that North Basin. We fought with other sites that ASARCO owned in the United States and convinced them, because of the golf course project and the input from the neighborhood of wanting a natural area out there, we got money taken away from an Illinois site by prioritizing that location. So we essentially had...
They drained and capped it, right?
We drained the lake, they went in there with bulldozers, removed it, and then capped it on the property, and now that's being maintained by the federal government.
So, I mean, these guys want to get out of town as cheaply as possible. We know that. You know, we also want this land to be reused by somebody, hopefully in a cleaner way, and for tax reasons. We want the tax money too. Tom, did you have something?
Well, I think the important thing is that in this case, we're not going to just let it sit idle, and it's not going to just fall apart. The owners have agreed to demolish the facility and clean up the site, and so I think that's great news for everyone. It's not going to sit vacant.
They have been working with us.
Yeah,
We're giving them credit here. We've had multiple meetings with Dominion. We've got tours of the plant. We understand the challenges facing us. We have a lot of interest from environmental groups that want to help us, and we appreciate that because these people are experts. And we want a clean transfer of clean property to the next owner so that the next owner can make a similar type of investment that State Line did and hopefully operate in a cleaner fashion. So, any questions on this? It's a great topic, actually. We don't talk about it enough, and it's a big deal. What's going on? So, whoever's question was that, thank you. Great question. All right.
Okay, next question. Do you know when Potash Corp is hiring?
Great question. Beth?
They'll be breaking ground in July, and I'd assume that they'd be hiring soon after. Stan, do you know the expected construction time for the facility?
I think it's a couple years, isn't it?
I think it's about 18 months.
Yeah.
18 months. So I imagine that they'd start hiring probably in about, a year or a little longer.
And obviously the trades are going to go to work very soon.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, they'll be starting in
The
July.
project is a massive project. They're going to basically, it's just to the west underneath the south part of the Nine Span Bridge. It's literally a football field long building that's specialty constructed. Everything is done internally into the building, and it's a massive project that they're undertaking. $70 million all day, right?
Actually, more than that when you total in the investment by IHB into the property and into the rail spurs. So,
great.
The rail.
It's a part of the city another part of the city that's challenged and needs a facelift, and this is going to give us opportunities to clean up Summer Street and that area around there. And I know the councilman's happy to hear that. I know he works very well with residents in that neighborhood. So we want to clean up not just the site itself. We want to use the investment they made there under TIF maybe and expand that investment so that we could pick up the whole area and make it more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, that investment by Potash is kind of the linchpin for future development too from IHB. So they're expecting additional investment in the area in a big way.
And as far as the Glidden factory, the Holkeen plant that stands outside of this, it's also coming down as part of this project, right, Jim?
That is on the demo list also.
That is on the demo list also, and that is a Holkeen Dinosaur, a company that walked away and had no plan for remediation of their land, had no plan for demolition of their property, and here we are 2 decades later, and we're still dealing with the same problem that should have been dealt with 2 decades ago. We're taking care of that as part of this deal. That was never even an option with us. That was, if we were going to invest what we invested into the Potash project, that building was coming down, and that's a huge positive for that neighborhood as well, because I've been through the building, I see the graffiti in there, I see the signs that people are living in there, loitering in there, doing drugs in there, breaking the law in there. This is a building that needs to come down. It's hard for us to police it because it's off the beaten path. It's fenced in. Theoretically, nobody's supposed to be there. It's a good project. We're going to clean up that whole area. And it's going to be big money invested in there and new jobs created, which is nice as well.
Yeah, and I think that SCM Glidden site is a hot industrial site. Once it's demolished and cleaned up, I think that you'll find there are a lot of people interested in that property.
Great. Great question. Let's keep it rolling.
If someone could explain what will be done with the property that was the old Knights of Columbus Hall on the north end of the Ager School complex acquired by the school city of Hammond.
Okay. Maybe a school board meeting would be appropriate for this question, but I will attempt. I have a history with this building. The night I was elected mayor, that was our victory celebration. And I remember, first off, the crowd that we had was too big for the hall, which I think was part of the reason the hall wasn't successful. I remember that night, it was landlocked. You couldn't move. You couldn't get your car in or out. It was literally a very skinny entry/exit, and we shut it down that night. So that area was challenged because it's a challenging location. You had railroad right down the Lyman Avenue Railroad, well, I guess it's the Monon, that's blocking them in, so you can't exit across the railroad track. The only way in and out was through that little driveway, and just didn't seem to work well. I know it's shut down. I'm not even sure. Is that the fact that the school city acquired it?
I think they're in the process.
It is?
Yes.
Who said that?
Yeah, Brian.
Oh, Brian, good. Thanks. Do you know what's going on, Brian? I don't know. City planner. Usually if people want to do stuff, they have to come to him, so.
We worked with School City a number of years ago about straightening out the zoning and the re-subdivision of the property. It's been demolished, but they never did identify if they had any specific final plans for it. It was just generally keeping the open space there.
Okay, great. So we don't really have an answer to that question, I apologize. But I'm gonna take that part of the city and give you a positive story. How about that? All right? I'm gonna let Tom answer this question about, we are establishing, is it 3.5, 4 miles of new bike paths in the city of Hammond currently?
We certainly are. The primary expansion is the old Monon rail, which runs down south to Munster. There's already crews out there beginning on it. It's going to start from, actually go from downtown Hammond all the way south to the Little Calumet River. We just signed an agreement with the town of Munster to develop a bridge across the Little Calumet. And the path actually will be open north of 173rd by August 4th just in time for the Whiting
It has to be
after
open.
midnight ride. That's right, because we're using it for part of the ride. So.
And you know what? I see that our next mayor's night is after the Whiting Hammond all night ride. And it should be Hammond Whiting, but it sounded better. Wham sounds better than Hoa. Yeah. So Whiting Hammond all night ride is taking place August
4th.
August 4th. We are meeting at the pavilion earlier than midnight. I'm thinking like 9 o'clock-ish. We're going to have a band. We're going to get together, have like a little tailgate. And then we're going to do, at midnight, we're going to get on our bikes and we're going to ride 25 miles around the city. The route's going to be shut down. It's going to be lit. It's going to be, obviously monitored. We start at the pavilion. We're going to head south into downtown Hammond. We're going to get on the new Monon bike path. And we're going to go all the way down to 173rd. And we're going to take 173rd over to the area of Lackawanna.
173rd over to 175th, and then Northcott into the back of Cabela's.
That's like the halfway point?
That'll be the halfway point in the break. Then we're going to take the Erie Lackawanna back north to downtown, and then retrace our steps up Holman and Sheffield, onto the George Lake Trail into Whiting, right through downtown Whiting, right along the lakefront in Whiting and Hammond, and then come back and right along Wolf Lake back to the pavilion.
It's going to be a fun night. Some of you will probably be pulling in back to the pavilion at like 6 o'clock in the morning, but hey, it's all right.
Well, we know Pat Moore is going to be riding it.
Pat Moore's riding?
Pat Moore.
Wheelchairs don't count. Nothing. You don't want to hear that one. That was a good one, but I'm not going to repeat it.
I decided Gleason's going to borrow me his motorcycle.
All right, so anyway, the Whiting Hammond All Night Ride is taking place August 4th, was it?
August 4th and August 5th.
August 4th, August 5th. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. There should be a lot of people there. It's the first annual, so please come out and support us. We have links on Go Hammond, right, Ray? We have links on Go Hammond, forums and stuff like that. We're going to be promoting the heck out of this. It's after the festival, before the second and third Triple Play concert shows. So we have a lot going on at the pavilion this summer. So hopefully, if you haven't gotten a chance to go out and see the pavilion, do it this year. If you're not a rock and roll country concert person, we do have the Northwest Indiana Symphony playing there this year, right, Mylan? Yes. Would you know what the date is off the top of your head?
Yes, I do. August 3rd.
August 3rd. Night before the all-night ride. So you could stay, actually, and tailgate for 2 days if you want. So you start with the symphony, and the next day come back for the all-night ride. A couple weeks later, we got Foreigner and we got Cheap Trick playing. So it's going to be an interesting summer. Anyway. great question about, well, what were we talking about? Oh, Knights of Columbus. I don't know how we ended up talking about the all-night ride, but anyway. Right next to the bike trail. Thank you, Ed.
Are there any development plans for the Columbia Avenue Business Park in East Hammond?
Columbia Avenue Business Park in East Hammond. Is that the, yeah, that's the one that the Menards is in. Yeah.
Just north of Menards.
Oh, yeah. Field Street, that area over there. Great question. That was a plan that, under the former mayor, sort of stalled out. We took it over. There was a couple leads that stalled out as well. And then we talked about housing. That didn't work out as well either. We sold off part of that land to Menards for their expansion, and that worked out well. That's the biggest Menards in the country, in Hammond, which is weird because it started in Wisconsin. So the Menards expansion took part of that. I'm probably butchering this. Beth, you?
No, you're right.
Right. So like, there's no, if I remember correctly, there's no real plans at this point to develop between Field Street and is that Conkey?
Not right now. We've had some interest from a couple of people, but it's very, very early in the game with it. So,
Right. But I know, I mean, we've met with developers about townhomes that didn't work out. We met with people about economic development projects in there, and they wanted too much money, and it just seemed like none of the projects really lined up for that. But literally a block to the south, it's blowing up. That development is rocketing. In fact, I think that's a hot spot for Hammond is 165th. We have some developments that have taken place between us and NIPSCO where we believe we're going to have the opportunity to develop what we call the NIPSCO pole yards, which is acres and acres of an area where NIPSCO just stored poles. I mean, it's prime real estate for us for economic development purposes, and NIPSCO and the city of Hammond last month reached an agreement where we would be able to develop this property. I don't think we've announced that publicly yet.
No, we've not.
So I see Chelsea writing away over there. So anyway, so I think Ms. King had the question. So once you do it, I mean, there's no going back once you make a park, though. I mean, you make a park, and then you take away a park, that doesn't go very well usually. I mean, if we did go that route, it hasn't been considered, but I'm not saying it's a bad idea either. But if you do make it a park, usually there's no going back after that. So anyway, any other follow-up? I appreciate it, Mr. King. Any other follow-up questions? All right, great. Let's move on.
Okay, this one starts out by saying, thank you, Mayor, for all you've done for this city during your administration.
Thank you.
They have,
But
they have supplied an envelope for, with pictures
Good.
and addresses.
That's a
but
great way to handle it.
On the 800 blocks of Michigan, Truman, Indiana, and Logan sections, there are dumpsters on the sidewalks, dumping in empty lots, eyesore properties, sinkholes, etc.
Great. We'll just take that, put Kelly Kearney's name on there. He's got some homework after this, but we'll take a look at it. I think that's a totally appropriate way to handle business. We appreciate you bringing in. We get pictures a lot. I think that's a totally appropriate way to handle business, and it makes it easier on Kelly, I know, and his employees. How many code enforcement officers do you have working for you now, Kelly?
5, we have opening that's going to be filled.
Right. So 5, almost 6,
40%
right?
of the district.
And then are they starting to get cross-trained now? Because when we first took over, they were real specialized. You had your building, you had your electrical person, you had your plumbing person, and then you had your code person.
When I
I know
first
you guys have been working on cross-training.
When I first started as Jim's assistant, we'd literally go into court, address would be called, name would be called, and I would stand up and a code enforcement inspector would stand up. And it just made sense to us and took it to you and combined in departments. Since then, Kurt has trained us through International Residential Code on building codes and how to apply them in the internal inspections that we do on rental properties, single-family homes, cut-ups. They also work the window writing permits, licensing, rental registrations. We've asked the inspectors to do a lot. They've always stepped up, and I could be more proud of them.
They have great inspectors.
They do a great job.
You know, and we appreciate what Kirk's done. Kurt came in and helped us a lot with our training. He has great background in this. And when I took over as mayor, all these departments operated in silos. You know, we had zoning over in one direction. We had code enforcement off in their own world. We had building off in their world. And the departments were so similar. And you'd, like Kelly said, you'd show up and there's 3 different people on the same cause of action in court. And what we've done over the years is we put them all in one department. We call inspections now, and we train all of the inspectors so that they could do each other's jobs. And it's gotten to the point where even the bosses could cover each other now. And it's more efficient for us, the taxpayers. It gives us flexibility so that if one person, we just had one of our inspectors go off, have open heart surgery. And we have people now that could fill in for him, whereas before, you know, we had to go outside and bring in, you know, people that cost a lot more. So we've done a lot of stuff off the radar that you haven't noticed. And I think part of that comes from the fact that every week all of us get together in a staff meeting and we talk about the issues, and we've gotten familiar with each other and the problems in each department. And I think Mayor's Night helps too, you know, even though, you know, maybe one department hasn't had a question asked of them tonight, they hear about other issues that are going on in the city, and it helps them too. Helps them say, hey, I know how I can help them, or I know something that, you know, a piece of advice they could use. So anyway, thank you for the question. We'll forward that to Kelly Curdy, Code Enforcement.
Okay, this is a thank you to the fire department for the display of their capabilities and response to the unfortunate accident at Wolf Lake.
Oh, great. Jeff, do you want to? Jeff Smith is the Hammond Fire Chief. Great guy, doing a great job. I know you had people out there as well as the Hammond Police Department.
Yeah, it was a sad situation. Not really sure though how the factors how it became that they ended up in the water, but we had our rescue boat out, and we actually took a boat from Milan, a pontoon boat, another boat, and we did get the child out of the water, but unfortunately we weren't able to save him.
How long was he down for, do you know?
I think about an hour and 20 minutes.
Jeez.
And the worst factor was the water was too warm. I mean, cold water's
right.
You're going to drown. The cold water's better.
You have a chance, right?
Yeah, I mean,
right.
the golden hour they call it, if you can get out with the golden
Really?
with the golden hour, but he just it was too late.
Yeah.
We transported him to St. Margaret's, but there was nothing that could
He's
happen.
from East Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you know, it seems like, well, you know, Mylan, head of the Hammond Port Authority, why don't you grab a microphone? I know it's been a while since we've had a fatality in Wolf Lake. I think we had one at the very beginning of my term.
Yes, there was.
in my
A
administration.
gentleman jumped off a boat and got tangled up in the weeds.
And we all know, why don't we just go ahead and talk about some of the dangers of swimming in Wolf Lake? Because we don't have lifeguards there. We don't have a beach there.
Right.
That was...
Yeah, it's a lake, and it's got a lake bottom, and the lake bottom undulates up and down. There's a lot of flat areas on that lake with sandbars, but there's also deep holes in that lake as well. And with that, if people are out there walking or swimming, there's always a danger. You know, there's a danger in a bathtub, Mayor, when there's a 2-month-old in there. So if you are 10 or 20 or 40 and you get in that lake and you're not familiar with it, it could prove to be fatal.
No, typically when people drown in Wolf Lake, it's because they got tangled in the weeds, right?
They get tangled in the weeds, or they step off from a sandbar into a deeper hole, and it catches them by surprise, and they could panic at that point, and then...
Well, if they fall into a hole, they could also get tangled in the weeds and be startled because they just suddenly dropped into the water.
All the above, correct. Yep.
And it was a little kid, and from what I understand, the parent wasn't swimming with him. Is that accurate?
His parent wasn't there, from my understanding.
It
He was
was
with
a
another
babysitter,
child
right?
with their mother, and
Jeez.
she was standing on the shoreline. But I mean,
Jeez.
it was an accident, you know.
Yeah. It's a horrible tragedy. You know, I don't know. It's devastating. A little 9-year-old boy. It seems like every year we have horrible tragedies like this in the region. Usually it's out in Porter County, but it seems like we have a lot of them out there at the dunes. Sometimes we get them in Lake County at the dunes. In fact, we have a Marine unit stationed. The Lake County Sheriff has a Marine unit at the East Chicago Marina that responds on Lake Michigan, which is where we usually have these types of issues. It's not very often Wolf Lake, because people don't swim in Wolf Lake generally. We have people that wind surf and body surf, but they usually have life jackets and they have wetsuits, which helps them float as well. The kids were swimming out to Boy Scout Island. I'm a great swimmer. I would never swim out to Boy Scout Island. I'm a great swimmer too. I would never do it because of the weeds. I've been to Boy Scout Island, but I've taken a pontoon boat. I would never swim in Wolf Lake. We know that as locals. I think that what we could do better as a community is make sure that if we see people, and I know my own staff is trained in this, and I'm sure that they're beating themselves up over what happened, but if you see people in that lake, it's incumbent upon all of us as a community to make them aware, because they may not realize it. It looks like a beautiful, calm lake, but a lot of people have drowned in that lake.
The lake's about 895 acres in size, and it's tough to patrol.
How deep does it get, Mylan? It's not very deep.
Yeah, there are some holes that were created first off when the toll road came in, and those went down quite a distance, Mayor, probably 30, 40 feet. Now, over time, those fill in and the sand shifts on the bottom. But we know recently, within the last, 6, 7 years, with the Army Corps project, creating the islands out there, there were additional holes that were placed out there. So, yeah, it's, and those could go down 8 feet, maybe 10 feet, 12 feet.
So I guess a good word for Wolf Lake is it's unpredictable, really, right?
It
Because we
is.
had Leon Triathlon there 2 years ago.
Right.
They did the swim event out there, no problem. This year they did a swim event and they were walking, and like a big part of it because the sand had shifted to where they swam.
Right.
And it just shows how unpredictable this lake is. So
Exactly.
you could be walking along on a sandbar, minding your own business, and literally drop into a 30-foot hole
Yeah.
and hit weeds. And if you're not a strong swimmer, it's a tragedy waiting to happen. So, like I said, I'm a very strong swimmer. I was a Navy diver, and I wouldn't swim in Wolf Lake. It's a dangerous lake. That's why we don't monitor it. That's why we don't have beaches there anymore. And if you remember, when we did have the beaches, you couldn't swim outside of that area that was fenced in. So these kids would have never, in the old days, been able to swim to Boy Scout Island, right?
No, this is well outside the, what used to be a swim area for
Right.
us, right?
So there's, looks like we have a question here.
Marina Beach.
Mhm.
What I'm not understanding is why isn't there lifeguards on the other side of the beach?
Are you talking at the
Marina?
marina? At the marina, we have the marina on one side,
Yeah,
and on the
there's a
other side we
park.
have a beach.
Yeah, there's a part
Mhm.
where there's no lifeguards, and mostly kids can go out there and drown.
Are you talking about Wahala to the east? Or are you still talking about by the marina?
Him and Marina.
Okay, right next to the marina, we do have a guarded beach with lifeguards.
It's right by the bird
Right by,
sanctuary.
right in front of the bird sanctuary and very close to the bin wall.
How many lifeguards are out there today? 4?
No. On duty all day today, probably 18.
Okay.
And they have to switch shifts.
And that little stretch, it's like
Right.
less than a mile long. right?
So we have a section that's, again, that's guarded. Then there's another section that is regulated by the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, that's a boater beach. That part is not guarded by our lifeguards because boats get to come up almost onto shore, and that is a non-swimming area. And then going to the west towards Dominion, State Line Energy, there's also an area that's guarded as well. So the lifeguards are at both ends of the lakefront beach, except that part in the middle that Mr. Novak and I had discussed with DNR years and years and years ago, that the boaters wanted for their recreational purposes as they exited the marina or came over with their jet skis or their boats to be able to park them up closer to the beach and be able to get out and enjoy the beach activities.
So
there's and it's definitely marked off with buoys as
aren't there
required.
lifeguards at Wahala too?
What?
There's not?
Well, there are lifeguards, but the lifeguards are over on the Whiting site at this time. The city of Whiting acquired Wahala Beach a
Right.
few years ago, and they're working actually to expand their presence on both sides, but
Okay.
they're working on it.
And I know the park department and our 4 public pools, Pat, you have how many lifeguards working at each pool on a daily basis?
We have about 10 or 12 lifeguards every
At
day
each
out
pool?
there. Each pool.
Right.
Correct.
And then that's 4 pools, so Pat has every day 40 lifeguards working there. Mylan, at that one beach, you have 18 to 20. We have every day 60 lifeguards working. I've had a lot of complaints. I mean, obviously, when you have a tragedy where a 9-year-old passes away in a city lake, you have a lot of people say, well, Mayor, why don't you have lifeguards there? Okay. Obviously, people are going to ask that question of the mayor. I can handle it. However, I'd like to point out that's not the only lake we have in the city. I mean, we have Oxbow Lake, we have Harrison Park's got a lake, Dowling Park's got a lake. I mean, are we going to monitor every body of water with 10 to 12 lifeguards around the clock? It's just not feasible. I mean, you post it, you explain the dangers to the community, and for the most part, the community follows the norm. We don't have this tragedy happen very often. The last one was at the very beginning of our term, and as Mylan said, the guy jumped in the water. It's a horrible tragedy. It's sad. I really feel horrible, obviously, but at the same time, I think as a community, we need to educate better other people that this is not a swimming lake. tough issue. Anyway, any follow-up on that? All right. Oh, yeah, in the back? Sure. Is it about the lifeguard? Is it? Okay. Yes, sir.
Gravel, so it can make it even like the first like 100 to 100 feet.
And then they'll swim there, and
Yeah.
then we, you know,
And
then
you can put signs, and everybody knows they have the limit. But it will be like even if we put gravel, the first 100 to 200 feet. I don't know.
The windsurfers, sir, the windsurfers use that area quite a bit, and you know, they beat it down on a daily basis, especially like a day like today when the wind was 30 miles an hour out of the southwest, and so there is usually a lot of activity in that area, and it, like I said, the grass gets beaten down on a daily basis.
Like you put gravel in the water, so it will be underwater. Would be like.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other questions about that horrible tragedy? All right. Let's move on.
What is the yearly cost of demolition of abandoned properties in Hammond?
Great question. It's a really, there's no budget item for this. I mean, as I indicated earlier, our budget's wiped out as soon as we pay police and fire. We have no money left, so we start dipping into casino revenue to pay everybody else around the table, right? So there's no budget item for demo. There was, but it wasn't adequate. Jim, is it safe to say, or Kelly or Kurt, is it safe to say to demolish a home, it's on the average about 10,000?
Yeah, anywhere between
Okay.
12 for an average home.
When I took over, what would you have? You used to have a line item in the property tax revenue that said demolitions, right?
Correct.
It's been zeroed out since then.
Correct. Yeah.
But you've done better. So like, how much was it, to give you an idea, to give the crowd? 100 grand, something like that?
No, if that.
If that. Not even that? So like, when I took over, we would have in the property taxes a line item for Jim to use in his department. Let's say it was 100 grand, which is too much, they say. 10 homes. 10 homes. We had 30,000 houses in Hammond. You know, not all of them are in demolition condition, we acknowledge, but let's say 2,000 of the 30,000 need to be demolished, and we're giving him enough money every year to do 10 homes. It doesn't take a mathematician to figure out this doesn't work. So what we've done, because the property taxes isn't the place to be right now, we zeroed Jim out on property taxes, and we dipped into gaming revenue and give him a heck of a lot more this year. Well, we worked out a deal with a big company that helped us out, but we got over $1 million this year for demolitions, which helps, but still going to take a long time. And sometimes that $1 million doesn't just go towards houses. Sometimes you have to demolish, like a NIPSCO building that we've agreed to undertake, Columbia and Calumet. No, excuse me, Columbia and Michigan. Chicago. Gosh, I'm sorry. Columbia and Chicago on the northwest corner right there. We're going to acquire that building and demolish it. And it's going to cost us 100 grand? It's all brick? Couple hundred grand. So like out of the $1 million, couple hundred grand goes towards that building, and maybe we'll be able to develop that building. Maybe we could put a strip mall there or something like that. But a couple 100,000, boom, gone right off the bat. I know we just approved a demolition list yesterday for 30 homes or something like that.
Probably a bit of that.
Right.
We've done 400 demolitions in the last 4 years.
400 in 4 years. Let me tell you, demolitions are supremely important to me in this administration. We always earmark a large percentage of gaming revenue to get rid of dilapidated housing. I drive all over the region. I drive in the good communities. I drive in the poor communities. And I see what to look out for, and I take it home, and we try to prevent that. And I tell you, one of the things that I'm vigilant about, and I know my department heads share this philosophy, you got to take down a dilapidated building. And you got to do it as fast as possible, because if you're living next to that and you don't have faith in your elected leaders, you're going to move out too. We don't want to lose you. So we've been aggressive with this, and the best thing you could do to get that problem property taken care of is be the squeaky wheel. Put it on our radar. Show it a mayor's night out. Give Kelly the pictures. Give Kurt the pictures. Give Jim the pictures. Be a squeaky wheel. Show up, show up, show up. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's how it works. And believe me, if you show up enough, we're not going to ignore you. You know, it's the ones that, oh, I called your office about this, Mayor, and you never listened. Well, when did you call my office? Oh, like 5 years ago. Like, maybe if you called my office a couple times in 5 years, you know, we have the best of intentions here to help you out. But as you can imagine, when you have 81,000 constituents, we get a lot of phone calls, and we try our best to keep up and keep on top of it, and so do the department heads. But I am a big fan of repetition. People think they're being jerks. People think they're being impolite. That's not the case at all. You're doing what you need to do in government to make things happen. Showing up to Mayor's Night Out is key, and I appreciate you being here. So, all right.
Okay, we have a couple thank yous. First one is many thanks to Councilman Al Salinas and helping residents fix their homes.
Councilman Al? Who wrote that? Was that Al when he walked in? From Al Salinas.
No comment.
Thank you very much. You want to say something about that, Councilman? Or?
No, I just want to say, any complaints that come to my phone or my office, I always follow up on them, so everybody knows. I always carry my little cards too, so everybody has one of them.
Cool.
But I'm always accessible.
Thanks, Councilman.
So that's how we do that.
All right.
Okay, also for you.
I'd like to remind you, if you want to get last second questions in, please go to the back table. We're starting to run short, and most of my department heads are usually happy when we run short. I'm just throwing it out there, to keep it going. We need questions, so.
Also for you, Mayor, would like to say thanks. NIPSCO came out and put up lights in our alley behind Robin Hood Lane so that the new park has some lighting. Again, thank you.
That's, we have good NIPSCO ties, believe it or not. I mean, I've been a pain in their butt, but my former chief of staff is manager at NIPSCO. He is a Hammond guy, and he wants to help. So if you have problems with NIPSCO lights, if you have problems and NIPSCO issues that you think that NIPSCO's not paying attention to you, I would recommend you give us a call. I know, Stan, you're in regular contact with NIPSCO about lighting issues, right? Which seems to be our biggest issue with NIPSCO, right? Yeah. Do you have anything you want to say, any recommendations to the public? This is Stan Desotny, Hammond City Engineer.
If you can't call NIPSCO, you can always call the Hammond Engineering Department, 853-6336.
My engineer still figuring out that microphone, so give him.
Well, I thought I was talking loud enough anyway. Yeah, Frank in my office handles the city-owned street lights, and he also follows up on NIPSCO-owned lights that need to be repaired. All the wooden pole lights are all leased from NIPSCO. Most, like 99% of the metal pole lights are owned by the city.
Great. Sure, Councilman.
I like to say, Stan, Frank really does a great job, because I tell you, out of 100 lights, all 100 have been addressed. So that guy's doing a great job.
We have a department in the city, works for the engineering department, but this department's whole job is lighting, and it's a big job. How many light poles do we have in Hammond?
We have about 8,000 total.
Really?
Probably about 3,500 are city-owned, the balance are NIPSCO-owned.
I would have guessed way higher than that.
Well, you know what? I'm not counting the alley lights.
Okay.
So there's probably
that kind of like the Boulevard and Calumet and stuff like that?
Yeah, all the major street lights. Probably with the alley lights, there's probably another 3,500 to 4,000 lights.
And we have 2 people that take care of these. So, and they literally, one person's on the ground guarding the truck while the other person's up there changing the lights. It's a dangerous job, actually, and they do a great job at it. So, if you have a problem, wooden poles are NIPSCO, metal poles are ours. You can call the mayor's office, we'll get you to the right department, or you can call the engineering department that's in charge of lighting issues directly. Or I would remind you, I'm on the radio every Friday morning on WJOB. I take live calls, and we take care of it on the air. If you have an issue like this, I guarantee you, if you called and said, Mayor, I live at 7608 so-and-so street, the city light in front of my house is out, they'd be there. They'd probably be there that day and take care of it. So you do have options. Other than Mayor's Night Out, there is other ways to get a hold of us that are very easy. Yes, sir, in the back.
Speaking of lighting on the subject, I've noticed many times when I go up to Chicago and I'm going by Leader Brothers, that little stretch in there going to the Illinois border is so dark and dingy, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, we just did a project over there.
That beautiful little strip down the middle, but that's more of a decoration. And there are wooden poles you wouldn't have to put poles up. If you could somehow contact NIPSCO to put more lights on it, it would be wonderful.
Well, the city did a big project there a few years back to beautify that area. We added lighting as part of that.
Yeah, the median was added, Mayor, where the flower boxes are and all the uplighting and the trees. But I'm looking at Stan and Ron, and that's an old state highway, and they never put lighting on that stretch of the old state highway, well, forever. Right, Stan?
Yeah, there's some lighting that needs to be replaced that the state had under the Indiana Toll Road. I think those are all gone now, and they didn't see fit to reinstall those. That stretch is kind of dark. The roadway could actually use some work. Maybe we can partner with the state and get it dressed up. We are probably going to be partnering with the state on Indianapolis Boulevard from 5 Points to Schrog Avenue with the city of Whiting. We're working on renovating that portion there and adding additional lighting through that section.
I think the gentleman I see is a little animated. We understand where you're talking about, sir. The point is, it's right. But the problem is, again, that section is a state-owned street. It's not city-owned. So, but we will
We'll follow up your complaint, though.
We'll follow it up. We'll follow up with them.
We'll follow it up, I promise. But cooperate with the state. That's easier said than done. as our buses are shutting down, it's hard. So. All right. Is it about lighting, sir?
Yes.
Sure.
We have one light on Russell and Ann.
Russell and Ann, right outside. Okay.
There's times, there's nights that it works and there's others.
Is it wooden or metal, sir?
It's ornamental lighting.
Okay, great.
Right.
Ann and Russell.
Ann and Russell.
Great. Stan, you got that?
Yeah.
We'll follow it up tomorrow. Thank you. That's how it's done. Sometimes if you get a poll number, it helps us too. If you go up, each individual poll has its own unique number, right, Stan? It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, NIPSCO polls have an oval tag with a 2-digit number on top and a 3-digit number on the bottom. We have individual numbers, so we go by the street name, and on the bottom of our ornamental lights, there's usually a numbering system of like 1 to 500.
Okay.
So
Good.
it's like Holman Avenue number 6.
Great. All right. Doing good. Let's keep moving. Oh, is this another lighting, or is this next question?
No, this is a new one.
Okay.
This is Festival of the Lakes.
Great.
A vocal opportunity for books, brushes, and bands for education. And Joe Yeager would like to talk about that.
Sure. How you doing, sir?
Good, and yourself?
Great. We're talking about Thursday night.
Talking about Thursday night. Thank you for the opportunity for Books, Brushes, and Band.
You were literally, if I could set it a little bit for you, and then you can get into, that's the night we're having the Led Zeppelin Symphony Orchestra play. And it's a stretch for us. This is the first time we've done an act like this during the fest. So in Avi, we always try to put a local act on before any of our major acts. And we were talking about what we're going to do to open up for the Led Zeppelin Symphony Orchestra. And there was only one local organization that came to mind. That was Books, Brushes, and Bands. So I set the stage for you.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Yeager. I'm a board member of Books, Brushes, and Band. I'd like to invite everyone here to get their children, their friends' children, anyone to sign up for summer vocal camp. The deadline is July 2nd. The camp will be 10 morning sessions from July 5th through July 18th. Rehearsal site is at Woodmar United Methodist Church, 7320 Northcott Avenue, Hammond, Indiana. If anyone's not familiar, that is right across the street from YMCA on the southeastern avenue of Hammond. The instruction will be held by Merritt School of Music. Tuition is $100 for a student, $20 for the concert shirt. Fees need to be paid at the time of registration. And then again, the best part of it, you get to have a great time learning about music, getting to know new kids, and also performing before the symphony that Thursday night, July 19th.
It's an opportunity for the kids to, there's probably going to be 2,000 or 3,000 people there that night to watch that. And the kids literally are going to get to perform in front of 2,000 or 3,000 people. And I don't think too many students have that opportunity. So if you have a singer in your family that may be interested, and if I'm correct, Joe, is it going to be rock and roll music that you guys are practicing? Like, I'm not sure what Michelle has planned.
I believe it's going to be to collate with the symphony, with rock and roll.
That's awesome.
And if you need information, there's brochures at the door as you walk out. So thank you.
Yeah. I mean, Michelle Golden, who runs Books, Brushes, and Bands, I know she was here earlier. I'm not sure if she still is. She's outstanding. She runs a great program. My daughter went through it, loves it. This is a great opportunity for your child to get some extra work during the summer and to play a big venue. This is the first time we've gone with the symphony during the festival, and to have young, Hammond kids opening it up for the symphony is going to be outstanding. And by the way, The Led Zeppelin Symphony Orchestra, I've seen them at the venue. Outstanding. It's very classy. The music is dead on if you're a Led Zeppelin fan. And the singer doesn't look like Robert Plant, but he sounds like him. So anyway. Speaking of the festival, Michelle.
Speaking of the festival.
Why don't you talk about the festival, since you're the special events coordinator?
Okay, how about I ask VIP tickets, why doesn't the city sell them to the residents so they can make money and residents can get into VIP?
That's a great question. And we're always looking at changing the festival. In fact, this year you will see a lot of changes at the festival. The beer garden is actually going to be a lot different this year, and it's going to be really cool actually what's going to happen this year. You're going to see a lot of changes at the fest this year. That's a good suggestion. We've always sort of prided ourselves on the fact that the fest is a free show. You know, and we're also looking at other ways to increase revenue, but at the same time, we don't want to charge Hammond residents for going to see the show. That's part of the thing about the fest is it's a free show. Something to think about for sure. What do you think, Pat? Pat's been doing August Fest and the Festival of Lakes forever. He's the pro at it. So,
Well, the problem you have with you start selling tickets for that back there, Barry, is it's pretty much pretty sponsor driven. Most of the sponsors who come in with the big money to help us support to pay for these acts, you know, they got first priority.
to give you an idea, like Horseshoe is good for $20,000 a shirt.
$20,000.
$20,000.
Yes.
So when Horseshoe shows up, they don't want to be with 5,000 other people fighting for a drink. They want to be treated like a $20,000 level sponsor. So, and we do have a lot of sponsors. Like Convention and Visitors Bureau is always big with us, and so I mean, I'm sorry, Pat.
No, it's okay. We do have a lot of sponsors this year. Yeah. We're doing quite well with it.
Michelle's done a great job. She has.
She has.
And it's going to be. Well, why don't we go through the lineup real quick while we're talking about it?
Okay, Wednesday we start off with Naughty by Nature,
Mm-hmm.
opening for MC Hammer.
Okay. Which should be literally, that should be a big night. For a Wednesday. Wednesdays are challenging for us. That's a big night for us, though. It should be a decent crowd.
I would say
For a Wednesday.
So far from all the sponsors, everybody wants to be on that night.
Okay.
I mean,
So,
huge.
to give you an idea of past Wednesdays, we could do 10,000 that night. And if we do, that's a huge Wednesday for us. Okay.
Then we have the Books, Brushes, and Bands opening for the Symphony on Thursday.
And that's the one that we were talking about earlier.
Friday we have Shaggy opening for George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic.
People I hang out with, that's the night they want to see.
That's another
That's,
popular one.
yeah. I don't know what that means, but I'm probably losing votes saying that right now. So
No, that's another sponsor driven. They want to be a part of that too.
yeah, that's a big night.
Saturday we have Azamatli opening for Los Lobos, opening for Los Lonely Boys.
I think that's the biggest night we got. I think that'll be the biggest night. That'll be the longest night and the biggest night. 3 bands.
And I think you're going to be surprised Sunday with Tracy Lynn Lundy opening for Craig Campbell for Gretchen Wilson.
Craig Campbell,
And
Gretchen Wilson.
everybody wants to see Gretchen Wilson.
Yep. We're giving it a shot. Country seems like, for one reason or another, it seems like that's always a down day for us.
I
But
don't think so.
we had some big acts early in the festival, and it would be like 103 degrees that day, and nobody goes to the festival if it's 103 degrees. It always seems like country night was bad luck for us. So last year we went away from country. We called 38 Special country, and people called us out on that. 38 Special is not country.
Country
this
Fried
year-
Rock we
Country
called
Fried
it,
Rock, we
yes,
said it didn't
yes.
work. So this year we went with real country, and we're hoping that we get a real big crowd because it's making us question whether or not country works in Hammond anymore, and if it doesn't, then we'll move forward. But I think our festival is very diverse, which reflects our diverse population. And we also, it's absent of any classic rock bands. We have Led Zeppelin night, but we felt like with the triple play that the Port Authority's offering, we were covering classic rock. And I see Joe Gajewski in the back row. Joe, do you mind stepping forward, talking a little bit about the last 2 shows we have, the Hammond triple play concert we have coming up? This is Jill. She works for the Hammond Port Authority. Does a great job over there. She's been working very hard on the Hammond triple play. Jill, we got done with the first concert, Styx. Worked out pretty well.
Yeah, people seem really happy with it. We have 2 back-to-back in August. August 17th, we have Survivor and Foreigner. And actually, I was telling Mylan earlier, got off the phone with Foreigner, and they are looking for a local choir to sing with them. So I'm going to get on the phone.
Go, take notes.
I'm going to get on the phone and start calling around and see who's interested.
Books, Brushes, and Bands is always my go-to choir.
You have a go-to
Thank you.
choir.
Please tell Michelle that. But do you know what's interesting about Foreigner? There's a movie coming out. I saw the play in Chicago last year called Rock of Ages, and it's a great play. It was about 80s music, right? And it's a real good play. I had no idea they were going to make a movie out of it. Is the movie out now? It is out, right? That shows you how much I go to the movies. This movie, one of the big bands in the movie is Foreigner. It's almost like crazy timing for us to get Foreigner to play Hammond, just as hopefully they're getting bigger again. And we've seen bands after the festival get bigger, not because of the festival, but REO Speedwagon. When we brought them here, the first time they played Festival of the Lakes, it was cheap. Nobody wanted them. And then they sort of resurrected themselves in the years after, and we went back to check in and say, hey, would you guys come back and pay the fest? And their price was out of the park. It's funny. So sometimes you see these bands get second life. I saw a commercial for Rock of Ages the other day, and they were featuring Foreigner on there. And I'm thinking, this is great. They're playing in August in Hammond, Indiana. So we do have tickets out there for these shows. They're not until August, so, but still, how much are the concerts?
It's still the same price, still $50 for residents, and residents can purchase as many as they want.
$50 for 2 shows.
Correct.
And no parking fees.
Correct.
And decent prices once you get in there.
Our vendors are very reasonable, and same thing with the beer garden. If we're sticking with $4 drinks for whatever you want, it's $4.
It's a different atmosphere than the fest. The fest is more crowded because it's free. The triple play, there's people with, throwing footballs, and they have blankets out, and they're just relaxing in the venue. It's not nearly as crowded. It's not like the festival's crowded. It's a free show with big concert names. This is a great time. So I realize it's not until after the festival. It's even after the all-night bike ride. But we have 2 weeks in a row. We had back-to-back Friday night shows. First one's Foreigner, second one's Cheap Trick. It's going to be a great time. So I think we have a question. Ms. King? Okay. I'm an open-minded person, okay? But I want to tell you, the festival, one of the things that we're under great scrutiny on is the budget. And are you making money? Are you breaking even? Are you losing money? And we don't charge an entry fee. So for us to make money, we make it off of parked cars, and we make it in the beer garden. So we need to focus for festival shows on acts that are going to draw people in their cars to our grounds and people into the beer garden to purchase beverages or, food, obviously, and stuff like that. Well, I appreciate the advice. That's something we'll look at. I will. Thank you. Any other issue? Oh, I'm sorry, Joe.
We actually had someone approach us about wanting to put on a gospel event, and it was just so late in the game in the summer that we couldn't fit it in. So hopefully they'll come back maybe in December, January. We're still setting our schedule, and we can work that in for next year.
And we did this year at the pavilion. We got this beautiful gift from the Regional Development Authority at the pavilion at Wolf Lake. I know you've probably seen it, and you've probably been there already, but if you haven't, you need to go up there and check it out. Our goal now that this has been built and given to the city of Hammond, our goal is to make sure that every summer we're giving you plenty of options to go up there and enjoy it. And the Port Authority's done a great job this year. 4th of July? Oh, good. Right. We used to do it at Harrison Park, and that's a touchy subject, but last year for the first time we moved it from Harrison Park. We did the naturalization ceremony, the Bill Porter Orchestra, and the fireworks at the pavilion. It went well. The fireworks, we're going to work on a little bit more this year. My chief of staff blew us away on our fireworks last year. I'll never forgive him for that.
I was using Pat's budget.
Oh, yeah? Property taxes. So anyway, the Easter sunrise services out there. We've got a full slate of events at the pavilion this year.
Well, I can tell you August, I think every weekend we have something going on. We said August 3rd, we have the Symphony out there. That's a totally free event. The 4th, we have the Night Ride. August 10th, we're having a local music night. The Beatniks on Conkey are coming out, and they're going to do a 3-hour concert.
Great.
With some different acts. We also have, obviously, the 17th is the second concert, and the 24th is Cheap Trick. And then the Friday after that, we're doing a special needs dance where we're just kind of inviting the special needs community out, and we get a DJ, and we just throw a little party out there.
Great. Well, eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to use that venue like the World Music Theater is used. Maybe we'll have big concerts with big names out there. We could do this. We got a really good show for Styx. It was a really good turnout. This is the first big turnout we had for a concert, and I think each year as we keep on offering these, packages to you, I think each year it'll get bigger and bigger. So thank you very much, Joe. And Michelle. We went through the lineup each night. Also at the Festival of the Lakes, we also have on Friday, we have the golf outing. So if you're a golfer, the Festival of the Lakes golf outing at the Lost Marsh Golf Course is wonderful. On Saturday, we have the 5K run, and I am challenging the employees again this year, as I do every year, and I lose to many of them. We also have Special Persons Day on Saturday.
We have
Children's Stage is active on Saturday.
Active all week.
Thank you. Sunday we have the Hot Rod Car Show.
Yes.
And the fishing. No, Saturday's got the fishing derby also.
Yes. Sunday is the car
Polka
show
Mania.
and polka party at the marina.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Polka party. Polka Mania. That's a packed event. There's
Also-
usually a few hundred people there. Easy.
Also a new carnival, Modern Midways, bigger
Yep.
and better.
Great.
This year.
Same kind of deals though with the
Yes,
wristbands
yes.
and stuff like that.
$50 mega pass will get you 5 days of riding. 5
Chief
days.
Miller, let me ask you a question. A lot of people ask me about security at the Festival of the Lakes. How many police officers do you usually have working like a big night, a Friday night or a Saturday?
25.
25 officers just working
Yes,
the
sir.
fest.
Yes, just working the fest.
Right.
And that's all off-duty officers that are.
So we're still covering the streets, obviously.
Correct.
Right. So you have your full complement of officers on the street, plus 25 extra officers in Robertsdale, basically.
Yes, Mayor.
And they're taking care of parking problems, they're taking care of safety issues.
Once in a while, we have a problem in the neighborhood, a parking issue
Right.
also, and they go out there and handle that all.
Right. Thank you. All right. So Festival of Lakes is coming. The dates are July
18th through the 22nd.
Great. It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We eliminated, in a cost-cutting move, we eliminated the boat cruise, which a lot of people are upset with. I'm upset myself because that was a great kickoff to the fest, but we couldn't justify the budget at this point. So I think the festival budget will look a lot better this year because we got rid of the money drain. So anyway, thank you.
I have one last question as far as, are there any plans to install decorative lighting on the 800 block of Indiana?
800 block of what?
Indiana.
Councilman Al.
800 block Indiana.
Mhm. Or it says, or could we have additional street lights installed? There are only 3 which have been there for over 50 years.
So this is the first I've heard of Indiana, but I do have, I just did Logan, I'm doing Murray, and I did Michigan, but Indiana can be put in there with Truman. So I'll just get them 2 blocks.
And it's hard because if it's not engineered right now, which I imagine it's probably not in this case, Al has to usually engineer it, which usually takes, it doesn't go quickly. Engineering the street to get ready for the lights, engineering everything that's going to accommodate the lights. So if Al wanted to do this project, it's probably not going to be done until next year. That's safe, right? Because of financial concerns, because of time. So even if Al, a lot of people get frustrated. They're like, I gave Councilman Salinas a complaint about 800 block Indiana, and he still hasn't taken care of it. It's not like we can just go out there and pop a light on your street. It takes a whole street, a whole block. We have to line up a lot of things.
If I can just, not to cut you off.
No, that's all right.
When the people asked me on Logan, you know, they wanted lights there, so I did it on Logan. Now that's the first I've heard of Indiana, but somebody did approach me on Truman, so I'm gonna just put them 2 blocks. Whenever we get some money, we can put we could do something different there.
Right. Anyway, so Mayor's Night, we've done this quite a few times. As you know, this is an open format. I appreciate you all coming out here. It seems like we've run out of questions, which is great. I want to point out that none of these department heads get paid a penny extra for showing up here. They're doing this on their own time. So if you will, give them a big round of applause, please. Well, you're not getting paid. Oh, you didn't get the memo on that? I apologize. But Mayor's Night wouldn't work without you or our audience, so thank you very much for coming out. Next Mayor's Night out, August 22nd in the 1st District Pavilion. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.